All right, all right, all right. You're listening to the We're Talking Football podcast. I'm Weston. With me, as always, the right-hand man, Lou. Lou, you honestly should have just unmuted yourself because as I was about to start, I hear you go like you're about to cough, and I was like, you should have just
Damn it! I was
let
trying
it
to do like
fly.
an OnlyFans reveal, with the girl, just like the
What do you know about OnlyFans, bro?
a
All
friend of a
right,
friend told me.
a friend of asking for a friend. Uh, Lou, we continue on down this free agency path. Next up on the docket, it's going to be the AFC West for us this evening. Um, we'll parlay that into the NFC West. It's been a long process gathering all of our facts and information related to these teams. Just to reiterate, free agency officially begins on Wednesday, March 15th. That's the new year. Legal tampering begins on Monday. You've already seen whispers of things that are happening around what teams are flirting with what players, what cap casualties are taking place. So a lot unfolding. So we're trying to be timely with this. But again, we are acting as if we are the general managers for these teams. We have equally divided each of these divisions. I just mentioned this evening is going to be about the AFC West. Lou's got two teams. I got two teams. I bet you can guess which one of those teams Lou is going to own. Lou, I got a little curveball for you. Since we're talking about divisions that carry our teams that we are most passionate about, I'm going to give you 6 minutes for the Chargers. And
I
when
don't
we
think
get
I
to the
need it.
49ers,
I don't think
I
I
see
need
I
it.
need 6 minutes. So I'm going to give it to you. If you don't need
Oh,
it, you
so
don't need
you
it,
act
but I'm
like
going to
so
give
you
it to
act like you're doing me a favor where
you.
it's
Yeah, I'm
really
doing
you
you a
need.
solid, bro. I'm doing
Yeah,
you a solid because I'm doing myself a solid. And
yeah.
I'm
We
still
all
going to
know. We all
the
know who the
Rooster's still going to
long-winded.
crow when I'm talking about the
Yeah,
Niners.
we all know who the long-winded one is. I'm just right to the
Bro,
point. No
if we
foreplay. Go right in there.
if we went back and checked the statistics, I guarantee you are 90% not hitting the Rooster Crow. I am 90% hitting the Rooster Crow on each one
I
of our
am
teams.
petrified of that crow, so that's why.
All right, Lou. AFC West, here we go. Who you starting with? What do you got for us? And before you unveil, let me show you my technology skills. Get the old trusty timer on the clock. Are you starting with the bolts?
Sorry with the Chargers
All
there.
right, hold on. I'm going to give you your extra minute. Here you go.
All right, so I am the general manager of the Los Angeles Chargers, known as Tommy Boy, aka Tom Telesco. Um, and currently the Chargers are $6.9 million over the cap. First of all, I have to thank my blessings. For some reason, I still have a job. I've had two playoff experiences in my 10-year duration with the Chargers. Either we have really low expectations, or I have some incriminating photos of the owner. So right then and there, I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy to be here. So, all kidding aside, I'm extremely frustrated with what transpired last year because I thought I did a phenomenal job of bringing in some top level talent to this team. Right, I got some depth for the first time in my career here as a Chargers GM. I was really happy what I did last year, and the problem is I never saw last year's team construction come to fruition. My vision never played out because we were destroyed and decimated by injuries. So I'm a little stubborn. I'm also my seat's a little hot, I would say. So I want to see how this plays out. So I'm trying to basically save face and bring as much as back as I can and run it back. And it's going to be hard to do that because we are almost $7 million over the cap now. But I'm going to have to, first and foremost, my main priority is getting creative when it comes to cap construction, right? I already restructured Keenan Allen and Mike Williams contracts to free up $14 million, right? I'm cutting Matt Filer and Dustin Hopkins to free up another $8.7 million. And I can do this thanks to the emergence of Jamari Salyer. He played admirably last year at left tackle. I'm just going to slide him over, probably where he's better suited at left guard, have him sit next to Corey Linsley and also Rashawn Slater. I think that'll be a great transition for him because those are two intelligent players that can help him, really mature and grow as a guard, right? So he won't be left on an island there. But also, Dicker the kicker, he was phenomenal last year. And I know the one kick he did miss was an imperative kick against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he was really solid. And how many times you can say that the Los Angeles Chargers have a solid kicker, right? Usually we go through them like Kleenexes. So that frees up another $8.7 million. That gets me roughly right in the black, I would say, from a cap standpoint. Next, I'm extending Michael Davis, our cornerback. He's only 28 years old. This is his last year on his contract, but I'm doing this for twofolds. First, it's going to help me give some cap relief, right? Secondly, he's going to provide me some J.C. Jackson insurance. It's awful what happened last year to J.C. Jackson. He's probably not going to be at full strength coming into this year. I don't want to rush him back, right? Because I'm thinking more long term. But Michael Davis played really well last year, and it's a name that people really don't recognize. He's big, he's fast, he's a sure and willing tackler. So I'm extending him to relieve his cap hit. Next, I'm going to Joey Bosa. I know he had some flack this offseason, but this is probably the easiest way to provide me major relief. I'm restructuring Joey Bosa to free up another $14 million. So by doing these 4 moves alone gives me north of $20 million. I'm also monitoring the tight end situation, whether it be in free agency or the draft, because if someone I feel like I can get in the draft or in free agency on the cheap, I'm possibly looking to cut Gerald Everett to save $4 million. So that would give me a little more additional relief there. So that's for the subtractions / the restructurings, the not fun part. Next, like I stated before, I'm trying to re-sign and bring in my own talent as much as possible. There are 3 players I feel like that are real important for me to bring back. All right. Trey Pipkins, offensive tackle. I can't believe I'm re-signing someone.
I can't believe you're saying that too.
I can't believe I'm re-signing someone named Pipkins. But yeah, Trey Pipkins, offensive tackle. He played good for us last year. Don't know how good he really was because of he did get hurt with his right knee, right? So he did good playing injured. So if he's healthy this year, maybe he plays better. In addition, he'll be cheap because the offensive tackle free agent market is so robust. It could drive down his price. I'm bringing back Drew Tranquil. Our linebackers have never been our strength, right, in the inside standpoint. So he has proved to show range, big playmaking ability, can blitz, can cover. He's a former safety converted to linebacker. Once again, the linebacker market is also flooded with a lot of talent on the free agency market. I think that can bring down his price as well, so it won't be too costly. And last but not least, Morgan Fox. He provided us some versatility, some pass rush. So I definitely want to bring him back. And then I'm looking towards the draft to address my remaining needs. Speed at the wide receiver position. Need to get a 3rd pass rusher because the 2 pass rushers I do have, albeit they're great, they're injured or a little older or what have you. I need to get, and then lastly but not least, I need to get some offensive line depth. And I have 25 seconds, and this is perhaps should have been number 1 to me. I got to figure out the Justin Herbert contract. I'm confident I'll get it done, right? But I don't want to be last at the table either. I want to get it before the Hurts contract gets done. And I don't know if I'll get it before Burrow, but I really want to be close to the first at the table than the last at the table. Hopefully I can set the market and not have to go crazy on that. Woo. You're a dick.
My computer was muted, so we weren't hearing it. I was like, oh, we're going to unmute that right quick. A couple things. If following the Chargers as closely as I do because of you, it's a good roster, right? Like a playoff team, right?
Top heavy though.
Yeah, but it's when we say that retooling versus like rebuilding, right? That sort of thing. I just think it's a couple pieces. I think one of the cool things is you get JC Jackson back, right? So it's almost like another free agent, you know what I mean? Because he didn't have the impact last year. Yeah, it'll be slow coming. But I like your secondary, right? I think they have some pieces there, like you said, Davis, Samuel Jr., right? Like there's just people, they got some young pieces, so we'll see how that goes. I can't help but laugh every time I hear the name Cameron Dicker or Dicker the kicker, because was it Kyle Van Noy that video that went viral where he was asking his teammates about,
Who's
what's
our
our
kicker?
kicker's name? And they're like, Dicker. And he's like, nah, you're fucking with me. Like, didn't even believe it. You know what I mean? And they're like, nah, it really is. And I found that to be hilarious. I think you're looking for the money in all the right places. The obvious statement of the day is, you have an aging Keenan Allen, no matter how much I love number 13. Mike Williams is always a really good football player when he's available, right? And like last year was a prime example of that. Got to be another weapon added there, but I think that's the draft, right? Because I don't look around on the offensive weapons, that are available in free agency, and nobody feels to me like they fit what this offense wants to do and what, Justin Herbert is capable of doing. I love the adjustments to the offensive line because what did I say? All year long, this team needed to get better at running the football, right? Like, I'm not so much worried about the protection of Justin Herbert. I feel like he's capable of almost protecting himself with his in-pocket mobility and getting out of the pocket. And God, he is amazing on the move when he releases that ball. But like, you got to run the football. I want to see what Isaiah Spiller's actually got. You know what I mean?
We all do, yeah.
Yeah, and I just don't think he's. I mean, listen, losing Rashawn Slater last year, big deal, right? Like a real big deal. Did you just cut out on the screen? I cut out on my screen.
You were, yeah.
Did my audio go or just my
good,
face?
You're
okay,
good.
Cool. All right. Again, I still think the Chargers are in prime position to compete. And then, through subtraction, get a little bit more addition. Very interested to see what they prioritize or what you prioritize, sir, Mr. Telesco, in the draft.
Yeah, I'm going to say let parting shots. I don't think they're going to be players in free agency at all. If they are, it's going to be in those second and third waves. Maybe those cheaper vets. And also I would look for like some of those former Staley castoffs. Maybe like a Leonard Floyd, right? Because this is a deep edge rusher draft that could drive down his price. He's going to get cut or traded or cut by the Rams. Look for a lot of players like the Johnson from the safety from the Browns that he can also end up there too if the price is right. And like I said, and he's still available in those second and third waves. Things like that. I think they're going. Yeah. That's how they'll address their needs.
I mean, listen.
Can't be mad at them for that because they went all in last year.
2 years ago, we were looking at John Johnson like, cream of the crop in free agency, and it just hasn't come to fruition for him in Cleveland. So I feel like he could also be had on the, I don't want to say on the cheap, but he's certainly not going to command in the market what he had previously commanded. So could be a good day, week 2, week 3 free agency addition for the team. All right. Next up on the AFC West, I'm going to roll with the Denver Broncos. So let's ride. Here we go. So 8.8 million cap space coming off a 5-12 disaster of a season where we fired our first year head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, in the middle of the season. We gave up a lot to bring Russell Wilson in. We were touted as the team that was just a quarterback away from serious opportunity to compete for a Super Bowl and compete in the AFC West, but yet here we are, 5-12. Didn't look like it was coming to fruition. As a general manager, what I first need to prioritize is I need to get this organization on the same page. So many stories out there floating around about the new culture due to Russell Wilson and his own office and yada, yada, you know what I mean? Like just all these things that don't bode well for our camaraderie, our locker room, our perception outside. We need to gel. I think I've made the right step here in getting a coach who commands respect due to his legacy and his history in Sean Payton, who's not going to let this locker room run rampant like a first-time head coach could potentially do, who wants to cater to his quarterback. I think Payton, for us, is going to bring a little bit more cohesion to this team, ideally. But I need to find more money. So the easiest way for me is I'm just starting with names like Cortland Sutton, Justin Simmons, Randy Gregory for potential restructures. Now, the Simmons and Gregory piece are a little bit more complicated because they're only in the second year of their recent contracts. So, like, what's in it for them to renegotiate? So we're going to have to get creative in our spin for that. But honestly, I'm just calling it out. For Randy Gregory, he played 6 games last season. He totaled 2 sacks. Does that really warrant the $16 million a year that he's going to get this year? Don't know. Another subtraction I might potentially look to is Ronald Darby. If I outright release him, there's $9 million in cap saving right now. That won't be a popular opinion. Pretty solid player, but I'm really confident in our depth at defensive back and our youth. We have a lot of guys that I think we're high on. Most importantly, I'm looking for improvements along the offensive line. I'm thinking names like Kelvin Beachum, Donovan Smith. These are individuals that can play both tackles, have a ton of experience, and more importantly, they don't miss football games, right? Like, look at Beachum. I think he hasn't missed a game in 3 years, or like 2 games over the last 4 or 5 years. Got a ton of experience. Think he's an immediate upgrade. I also want to look to reinvent my center position. So I'm aggressive towards Connor McGovern at center. Maybe that allows me to slide Quinn Miners, your guy, out to guard and kind of spread out the depth a little bit along this line because I want to run the football. That's the easiest way for me to protect Russell and not get him in situations where we got to throw it 40 to 50 times a game. Sean Payton's going to want to run the football. I like our running backs, right? So we'll see how this goes. I think the last piece is I think I'm going to want to solidify our inside linebacker position. We all love Josie Jewell in the building, think he's a heck of a player. But I also believe, based on recent events, there's an immediate opportunity to upgrade now that Eric Kendricks is on the market. I think he fits our style of play, what we want to do. He's consistently one of the best middle linebackers in the league. I think he's somebody that we want to pursue rather aggressively. The thing that I would – other things real quick before I make this final point. When I look at my own free agents, there's 2 that I would prioritize. Going back to the middle linebacker position, a not so, household name in Jonas Griffith. Young player, good player, solid contributor, contract's just up. And then Draymond Jones. I want to keep some of that D-line depth that I possibly can. But here's the reality. It didn't look – I believe the talent is there for our team. It just didn't mesh well last year in the first year under Nathaniel Hackett and with Russell Wilson. So I have to be optimistic that by just bringing in Sean Payton, getting that cohesion, getting us all on the same page, all accountable with the talent we have, that could quickly shift the tide. We're not void of talent up and down this football team. There's spots that we want to get better at. So I feel like it's little pieces to see what we have in these veterans that we've expended before. Candidly, as the general manager, we might be a year or 2 away from just imploding this entire thing and going with the youth movement once we get past the deficit created by the trade for Russell Wilson in terms of recouping our assets, things of that nature. So tweaks, not a complete rebuild, if you will, for us right now. And I think we're right back competing. And that's all. No rooster.
All right, good job of avoiding that crow right there. Couple things. It's interesting. I think one of their bigger priorities should be Draymond. And let me tell you why. They've lost over the last couple of years. Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. You can't keep on losing pass rushers, and Draymond Jones is a big imperative to their success. Don't know how they're going to be able to afford him. Rumors are he's going to be commanding around $16 million a year. With those type of numbers, don't see how they're going to be able to afford him. But there's also rumblings that Sean Payton – I don't think Sean Payton's come to save this franchise. I think this roster. I think Sean Payton – I think this is a year where he's just going to take quick inventory and say, you're out, you're not my type of guy. And you'll be surprised that some people down the trading block – you said restructuring Sutton – his name has been floating around on the trading block, as is Jerry Jeudy. Also, Garrett Bowles' name has been floating around the trade block. So I feel like I don't think Sean Payton came here because of Russell Wilson. I think he came here, despite Russell Wilson. Like, listen, if it works, great. I'll keep on having Russell Wilson on my team. But guess what? I'm not married to this guy, and we'll see how he does this year, and we'll just move on from him. I think his thought process is more of a long-term approach as opposed to trying to win it now. And if Russell Wilson can help him get there, great. If not, no skin off of his back thing. type of thing. So this wasn't a move to try to salvage this roster and salvage this franchise to get to the Super Bowl this year. They would love to, of course. So I'm not saying they're not trying to. They would love to, of course. But I think he's coming in with more of a bigger picture type of mentality as opposed to just year one, these next year or two.
Yeah, I totally see that perspective. Don't know if I fully subscribe to it because I think of the ego of Sean Payton and like, is he really here for a rebuild? Is he here to do what he was doing in New Orleans over the next 10, 12, 15 years? I don't know. And I don't know how much his ego sustains as being that highly coveted guy. And candidly, GM hat off. You know, Lou and you and I both talked about this with Brian Dable come to the Giants, right? Same mentality, right? He's got that long-term contract. He's going to blow it all up. You know, he started to do those things, but the talent that he had wanted to play for him. They were eager. They were hungry. They did a lot of good things. And I just think, look, if I'm as a general manager, I put everybody's name out on the trade block. Call and make me an offer. Make me an offer I can't refuse, right? Like there's no harm in doing that, you know? It's so look, you could say I'm going to put Judy out there, I'm going to put Sutton out there, I'm going to put Garrett Bowles out there, but are you really going to pull the trigger? Because I guarantee you value them differently than other teams value them, and you're not going to get that value in return. But I totally understand the perspective that you're coming with, because I do think Sean Payton is that kind of guy, and this is just you and I talking, right? I'm no longer pretending to be the GM that really doesn't give a shit about Russell Wilson. Like he's like, hey, if I got a good, competent guy there, I know what having a good quarterback does for my life. It makes it easier. But at the end of the day, he can next year, if this thing continues to flop, he can just as easily say, I wasn't part of this decision. He's got to go. You want to keep me? This is how we're doing it. And I don't think even fans would even bat an eye.
I agree with you. And the reason why I think he went to the Denver Broncos is the fact that, you know, their new owner. He's one of the Walmart guys, right? So endless money. I know you're saying cap space, but when you have an owner willing to do certain things that other owners are not, eating dead money, restructuring deals, just like the Saints did. I think that's where he said, like, you know what? If it works out these next 2 years, great. If not, guess what? I get to build this ship the way I want to, and my owner won't say no.
Yep. Yeah, no. It's one of those cases when you bring in somebody like Sean Payton, they clearly want more control. They want their voice to be heard. Like, I got to be honest with you, I don't think Nathaniel Hackett had a voice at all in this like locker room or with management. I don't think they really cared when push came to shove. So they will be listening to Sean Payton, and his pedigree says that you should. All right, Lou. Looking at the clock, we got a lot to go still. Next up are going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, I imagine.
Yes.
So congrats, Super Bowl champions. You're now on the clock.
All right. So Kansas City Chiefs, we have $16.9 million in cap space.
This is crazy.
Yeah. But, you know, when you look at that, that's not going to get you as far as you think, because my first priority is bringing back the big boys, and it's going to be costly. When I'm talking about the big boys, I'm talking about, first and foremost, Andy Reid always has the highest level of success when he has a good offensive line. And one of the big boys they need to bring back, it's imperative to their success to protect their quarterback, is Orlando Brown. Last year, they weren't close on the deal, so I'm not sure what changes this year. They didn't franchise tag him this year. So it'd be interesting if they do bring him back, or if a team that has a lot more money to them, that are a little more desperate, like the Chicago Bears or what have you, actually end up stealing Orlando Brown from them. But I have to make a real hard attempt to bring Orlando Brown, because you can see what Mahomes looks like when he's not pressured, right? And he can, so that's extremely imperative. On the other side of the ball, I'm looking to take care of Chris Jones, and he deserves it. And he says that he wants to be paid as the second highest, defensive lineman, in the game. And like I said, he has done nothing but, work his tail off since he's been here, and he's in his last year of his contract. I know he's 28 years old, but that being said, maybe we do a 4 or 5 year deal and keep him around for the next 3 years, and the other 2 years pretty more has a parachute clause. But I got to bring back, these guys are imperative to success on both sides of the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs. I got to figure a way to bring them back. So you can easily see how that $16.9 million doesn't go so far. I also need to look to replace the departures of Carlos Dunlap and Frank Clark, but I'm going to have limited money after addressing, Brown and Chris Jones to do so. Right. So I'm looking on the free agent market at those veteran edge rushers that are looking to chase rings. Right. Your David on Clowney, your Yannick Ngakwe, maybe your Bud Dupree's that they don't have as much juice and they won't be as expensive, but they still could bring something valuable from a pass rushing standpoint to the game, which is imperative in the AFC West. And I know everyone wants us to add a big name wide receiver like Odell or Hopkins, but I think that's not the right way to go because when you have a Patrick Mahomes, you don't need a big name wide receiver. Mahomes makes everyone around him better. He doesn't need the wide receivers to make him better. He can be thrown to me and you and still have 4,000 yard, 4,000 yard season. So you don't have to heavily invest. I'm not saying you have to totally ignore it, but you don't have to heavily invest at the wide receiver position. So I do want to keep one of my playmakers here. I have a decision to make. Do I bring back Mecole Hardman or Juju Smith-Schuster? And push comes to shove, I'm bringing back TikTok Boy. And let me tell you why. Hardman has had an injury history, and he's never really materialized in our offense. It's disappointing, but after a while, you got to call a spade a spade. So that is why I'm looking to perhaps let Hardman walk. Last but not certainly least, I'm looking for a contingency plan for Travis Kelce. He's 34 years old. I still think he has 3 years or so left. But this is the time. You address the need before it becomes a need, and this is the time to do so. So how am I going to come up with a contingency plan? Perhaps looking at the NFL draft this year. It's the deepest tight end draft it's been probably within the last 10, 15 years. So I'm looking to pull the trigger on a rookie tight end within the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft this year. I do that. Just make little tweaks and twerks there, or I'm not sure why I said the word twerk, but I just make some tinkering a little bit. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We won the Super Bowl. Yeah. We just got to keep as is and hold on to our talent.
You've won 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. Big deal. Are you done?
I'm done. Yeah, please shut the timer off. I don't want to hear that.
You got it. Couple things. I ding, 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 nail on the head. You win the prize. The replacement plan for Travis Kelce needs to begin now, and it is the draft, and it's this year. Let's remember where, Travis Kelce wasn't this highly coveted guy that came out, right?
Molded he was a third rounder.
Yeah.
Third rounder.
So things to consider. You talked about the playmakers. They already did this last year. They already planned for this year last year, right? Like the picking of Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney being traded for in the middle of the season. I totally agree with bringing back Juju over Mecole, and I'm pretty sure that's probably already in the works because I can't go in with like MVS as my highest paid wide receiver, right? Like it's the production is not there for 10 million plus a year from the guy. But you're going to see more from Kadarius. And if there's anybody who, honestly, because with Sky Moore on this roster and even a little bit of Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman just becomes redundant, and he's going to cost you more than those two do. And they'll add more. And then, the Chris Jones restructure is looming large, right? Get some of that money off the books because he is a huge cap number right now. And again, another area where you hit the nail right on the head is just bringing back Orlando Brown. Like, you know what I mean? Like, arguably the second most important position on the offensive side of the ball, right? Is that left tackle protecting the blind side of Mahomes. And it just, that's how I see their offseason, right? Like, just an addition here, a retainment here. And oh, by the way, we still have 15 under center. We're competing for the Super Bowl next year again.
Every year. From here until God knows when.
And here's the beauty of it is Mahomes has a really high cap number this year. Like he's like more than 22%, right? Last year, I think he was 17%. So he'd be the first quarterback and they'd be the first team to win when your QB accounts for more than I think is 16% of the cap number. But his cap percentage actually goes down and his cap number goes down year after year after year. And not just because the cap's going up, like his number against the cap actually goes down over the next few years. And don't tell me Patrick Mahomes isn't the kind of guy that you can approach next year and be like, dude, let's restructure. Let's restructure. He'll take the Tom Brady approach the rest of his career. He'll restructure. Oh, you want to give me $25 million signing bonuses year after year after year after year? No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like he is that guy. Like he's just like, love him or hate him, Mahomes is great for the NFL. Great dude. Team first mentality. He's made his bag. He's set for life. He wants to play for a long time. Like he's going to be very friendly to this front office as time goes on.
There's one other thing I forgot to mention as the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs. I need to do this offseason. I need to ban Jackson Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes from the stadium.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's probably going to happen. I mean, Jackson's in a whole nother world of trouble right now. I'm sure you saw all this stuff that's come out about forcing himself upon a woman. But yeah, he needs to. It's hard, right? Like the face of your franchise carries a little baggage with him. That's not even his own baggage, right? And like that's hard to deflect and hard to deal with.
No, Mahomes has to get his wife into check. Wife in check.
That's come on, dude. You're married. I'm married. There's no shot in hell I can ever get my wife in check, or you're gonna get your wife in check. We're just we're just pawns in their game.
Even if we were making $50 million a year, I think I can get it.
No, dude. This is one of the things I love about my wife, right? Like. She's so funny, even though she's so quiet. Hey, what's mine is ours. What's yours is mine, right? Like it's the way that she kind of looks at it, and it's fine. I respect it. You know what I mean? Like that's why I go to work is to help provide, for the family. So I just look at it like, bro, if I ever just all of a sudden hit the lottery or whatnot, she'd have that locked up so fast that I would have no opportunity to even vacate the premises. And I respect that about her.
Amazon trucks, just literally trucks just parking in your driveway.
100%, dude. 100%. All right, let's forge forward here. Final piece of the AFC West, the Las Vegas Raiders. 30 million in cap space. We finished 6-11. Whoa.
There's rules to this, Weston. This isn't Vietnam.
I know. I'm gonna give it.
Yeah.
All right. That's to make up for the time. Disappointing season. Following a previous year playoff appearance, my non-GM actually put the Raiders in the playoffs this year. From a prediction, it was troubling because we returned a lot of the same roster, right? And added a superstar at wide receiver. And we got less results. Here's the obvious statement today. We moved on from Derek Carr, creates a big gap for us under center, the most important position on the field. We will be in pursuit of all of the top free agents. We are kicking the tires on Aaron Rodgers. We are kicking the tires on Lamar Jackson. We're looking everywhere. But I'm going to be honest with myself. The writing's on the wall. To me, I'm probably really looking at a combination of either a Jimmy G, an Andy Dalton, a competent starter. I might bring back Jarrett Stidham, right, to see how that experiment might go for another year under Josh McDaniels. The reality is like we're not upgrading at quarterback this offseason. Just doesn't feel like now is going to be the time based on the market and where the hot names are going to go. But I think we're making progress and retaining our people, right? We franchise tag Josh Jacobs, hope to get a little bit of a longer term contract that's team friendly out of there, keeping him in this offense for at least another season, even plays on the tag, which is going to help aid in the transition of whoever's going to be under center for us. We want to go back to that run game. Josh was tremendous last year. We ran the football very well. We're going to be spenders, but I also want more money, right? So I'm looking to restructure people like Colton Miller, Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, who's kind of fallen off a little bit. I'll ask him to go get some of that money from John Bones Jones, who just came back and won the heavyweight title in the UFC, etc. Here's what's interesting. We brought in a new defensive line coach, and I think the defense needs a remake of sorts as well across the board. His name's Ron Leonard. There's a lot of interesting players who have played for Ron Leonard in the past. Looking at some current ex-Baltimore Ravens, whether it's Justin Houston, whether it's Jason Pierre-Paul, I know they're aging, but Justin Houston really had a lot of production under Ron Leonard last year, and he could be somebody that we can bring in to spell Chandler Jones, third down situations, a compliment to Max Crosby, help us get a little bit more pressure in a division that is littered with stud quarterbacks when all is said and done. So it's going to be all about pressure. Another thing that I'm prioritizing, and I don't know if this is going to be shocking to anybody, but I want to bring back Matt Collins opposite of Devontae Adams. Matt Collins played admirably last year. Darren Waller was hurt quite a bit. Hunter Renfrow didn't have nearly the same production in this offense last year as he had in years previous. And Matt Collins was highly productive, and he's not going to cost me a lot of money to bring back. I feel like we might get the home team discount. And my last piece here, Lou, and this is a cop-out. I'll be the first to admit it, but I need to add a defensive player at literally every single layer of the defense. Edge, I feel okay with who we have on roster right now, but I need to add depth at the defensive tackle position. I need to bring in some linebackers, right? Levante David is an interesting piece. We've had some success with Denzel Perryman, a thumper, middle linebacker, vet. I would say Levante is more well-rounded, and he might be a better fit for the scheme. We need corner help. We need safety help. We just haven't been drafting well in these positions. Some of them aren't even in the league anymore, right? Like due to the troubles that have set us back a few years under the former GM Mike Mayock, but now it's my show. And the priority for me is defense. That's free agency. That's draft. I think draft, I'm shooting for high upside. Free agency, I'm looking for some stout veterans that can keep us competitive and competent. I can rattle off a ton of names, not going to because we've talked about them on all the other around all the other teams, but that's the priority. It's we got to get better on defense across the board at every layer. That's it for the Raiders.
All right, so my 2 cents. The Raiders do have a lot of money in cap space. They're tops.
But a lot of work to do.
They have a lot of work to do. I mean, the thing is, it's not just one side of the ball either. It's both sides of the ball. And when I mean, this is the quintessential team when you're talking about being top heavy. They are extremely top heavy. They have a really good talent, but then it falls off a cliff really quick, right? So Max Crosby, phenomenal. Devontae Adams, phenomenal. Darren Waller, phenomenal. Josh Jacobs, phenomenal. And then Chandler Jones, phenomenal. Hunter Renfrow, phenomenal. And then everything just falls off a cliff. Their starting right side of the offensive line are all free agents. Not that they were even good, by the way.
No.
They are littered with a bunch of free agents on the defensive side. And once again, that could be, depends how you look at the glasses, half full, half empty. Like, hey, we're getting rid of guys that weren't good for us, right? But how can you stretch that $37 million, right? That is going to be the $100 million question. And the thing is, when you become players in free agency, it's always more expensive to acquire new free agents than it re-sign your own.
Yep.
So your buck might not go as quick as much if it was to re-sign your own. But they have 2 people in their starting secondaries are free agents. Their whole linebacking core are free agents. A bunch of their defensive linemen are free agents. They have a lot of work to do. And you know what, Weston? I wish we had the technology capability to slice in what I said last year about the Raiders after the Broncos and Chargers made those big moves. Because what I said last year is this. They should just kick the can and just rebuild starting last year. And then literally as soon as I said that, like I want to say the next day they trade for Devontae Adams. Like, what the hell do I know? Yeah. Right? But guess what? It didn't work. Yeah. They just couldn't keep up with the arms race. And there comes to a time where trying to keep everything together, you're just denying, you're just delaying the inevitable.
Yep.
And I think they're coming to the realization like, hey, because they got rid of Carr, they might start having those thoughts in their head. Draft a young quarterback to start this process again. So,
yep. All right, Lou, that wraps up the AFC West. Obviously, next on the docket, the NFC West. But until that time, my friend, Always a pleasure.